Hello and welcome to the Herdline Podcast, hosted by Trace Johnson and the Herds Headset. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode where the Headset and Trace talk all things Marshall athletics. Be sure to follow us on X and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever else you listen to podcasts. Now, sit back, relax, and let's talk the herd.
Welcome back to the Herdline Podcast, joined by a very special guest today in former Marshall head football coach, current Shawnee State head football coach, and former 1987 1AA first teamer, Southern Conference, Mark Snyder. We're very blessed to have him join the podcast today and get into a really cool conversation about what he's doing now, get into some of the herd stuff, and we've got a lot to talk about. It should be a really good episode, and we're excited to get into it. But before we get too deep into anything, how are things going for you, Coach?
It's going great. How are you guys?
Oh, we're great. We're very, very happy to have you on.
Well, I appreciate you having me.
Awesome. We can't wait to see where the conversation leads us because we got some stuff we want to ask you. We want to hear about what's going on now and with all the stuff, the exciting stuff that you got going on up there at Shawnee, and we're excited to hear what you got in store. But before we'll just alternate back and forth. The headset will ask a question, then I'll ask a question, and we'll just kind of go back and forth like that. We won't try to keep you too long. We know you're a busy man, so we'll try to keep it as minimal as we can. But with that being said, I'll just go ahead and let the headset ask his first question, and we'll get rolling.
Yeah, again, Coach, thank you so much for coming on today. We really appreciate you. Like you said, we know that you're a busy man. You've got a lot of irons in the fire, so it means a lot just being able to sit down, have a little conversation with you. It means a lot. So my first question here is this, and I want to start kind of back at the beginning of your story because you're deeply tied to this entire region, even to where you're coaching now. You're a tri-state guy through and through. You grew up in South Point. You attended Marshall University in college there, and eventually came back to lead Marshall and at Shawnee State. So let's talk really about your playing days here at Marshall, because it was really a fascinating era that you were a part of. This was a program beginning to climb to a level that it had never seen before nationally. In 1987 alone, you led the Southern Conference with 10 interceptions. You set a record that still stands today at Marshall with those 10 interceptions. You were second on the teams in total tackles. You helped beat a tough Louisville team, and your team also made it to the national title game. So, just awesome stuff. So when you look back on those years, what stands out to you the most?
The first thing that pops in my head as a little tyke going to the Sonny Randall football camp over at Fairfield, and then having the chance to see what Coach Parrish did. I think Sonny laid the foundation. Looking back on it, Stan came in and added an element of the passing game and had Carl Fodor and some really good players around him. And then Coach Chomp came in and really did a really good job at the quarterback position. We were pretty loaded at that position and took it even to another level. And then we could just keep going from there. And then Coach D came in and did what he did, and kind of, you just saw the Marshall rising, if you will. And it started a little bit with Coach Randall. I really think that we're going way back in time now, but with the Carl Lees of the world, he built a foundation that I know my generation, when I played, took advantage of the momentum that they had.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no doubt. And again, that was like it was a legendary time in the program because Marshall had just never been to that level. That's just the first time ever these things are happening where you're getting guys in the NFL, where you're seeing, national titles and different things. And so it was a special time, and I'm sure it was a really cool time, cool experience for you personally.
It was. It sure was.
Absolutely. Such a pivotal part of Marshall's history as well there in the late 80s. So that was a great time, no doubt. My first question would be, right when you got out of Marshall and you graduated from Marshall, you got into coaching immediately, had a lot of grad assistant jobs and so forth, and ended up working for Jim Tressel at Youngstown. And of course, we all know the early 90s was very centered around Marshall versus Youngstown State for national championships and all that. So kind of talk a little bit about what that was like for you, you know, being a Marshall grad, but being at coaching against them and so forth. What was that like for you?
Couple cool stories for you. Okay. So in 91, when we played Marshall for the first national championship, right? The seniors on that team, the Michael Paytons, who probably Bard and Troy, and you know, those guys were all freshmen my senior year. And here I am on the other sideline coaching against the guys that were freshmen when I was a player. And at the banquet in Statesboro, the announcer, the MC, started the luncheon by saying, Michael Payton back to pass, intercepted by Mark Snyder, and the crowd went crazy because we were on the same team, right? I don't think Coach Tress got too much humor out of it, but that was a pretty cool story. And then you come back to 92, we come to Huntington, which was, I mean, all of this was just, for me as a young coach, mind-boggling, right? And I remember, I don't know, I think that might have been the first year of the Joan, maybe the second, but we're standing out there pregame, and I'm a young coach. I'm 28, and I'm talking to Coach D at midfield, and he put his arm around me. I'll never forget this. He put his arm around me, and he said, Coach, I want you to look around here. This could all be yours someday.
Wow.
And that set me on my way. That's the day I knew I wanted to be back at my alma mater as the head football coach. Pretty cool story. And then, awesome. and then I know it was really awesome. And then, you know, what's really crazy is after the game, I didn't fly back with the team to Youngstown. I stayed in Huntington and was trying to get home, and they were carrying the goalpost down 3rd Avenue, and I couldn't even get home. And I was sad, but I was also happy, if that makes sense. And this happened before I was 30 years old. Pretty cool coaching stories.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I mean, that would have to be you're upset because the team you're working for didn't win, but you're happy because your alma mater wins. Yeah. So right. You couldn't really lose that one.
I won. It was a win-win for me, no doubt about it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And speaking of, you know, you going against Marshall, as fate would have it, a few years into the future, you were coaching the Ohio State University with Jim Tressel, and you were his defensive coordinator there. And 2004 in particular, you can recall there was a little run-in that Marshall and Ohio State had against each other, where Marshall almost pulled off one of the biggest upsets in all of program history. Talk about that game a little bit, what you remember from it, and your perspective from the sideline.
Well, you know, it's hard. I remember that week doing our best to remind the players that this is a good football team, right? And I don't know who we had the next week. I can't remember. But to get the players focused in and understand, because thank goodness that Coach Tress knew. We had some history with Marshall, right? Myself, Coach Tress. I talked to the team, tried to warn them what was about to happen. They're not going to care they're coming into Ohio Stadium. That's just not who Marshall is, right? And, you know, it's hard to get to young people sometimes. And heaven's sakes, before we woke up, the game was almost over. And we were very, very, very fortunate to get out of that game. No doubt about it.
Yeah, all-time heartbreaker as a Marshall fan for sure. Yeah, almost there, almost had it.
No doubt. That was a great game. I remember that game vividly. And that was the year after they beat Kansas State. So it could have been 2 straight years of big, big upsets. But, yeah.
I remember Jonathan Goddard right in front of me taking the ball from Lydell Ross. Just took it from him. And ran it back the other way. That was right in front of me. And you know, and, you know, again, a wake-up call, guys. You know, I mean, these guys came to play now. They're not messing around.
Yeah, absolutely. Goddard was a beast that year, absolute beast that year. But my next question is, it's going back to some of your places. You've coached at a lot of great places. You've had a lot of experience with a lot of great coaches, and you worked just with some of the best programs and coaches around the country. So what's some of the most essential knowledge that you gained working with so many great coaches over the years? Just what's some of the most important stuff, the stuff that sticks with you?
You know, there's so much, guys. We could be here all day. I think that Coach Tress was a leader of people. He had a unique ability, has a unique ability as the lieutenant governor right now to bring people together, and play solid football. Glenn Mason, I probably learned the business side of football from him. From each guy, I learned a little something. From Mark D'Antonio, he did a great job of not being Nick Saban or being Jim Tressel. He took bits and pieces of it, but he was still Mark D'Antonio, and that was a big deal I saw when I went to Michigan State. Probably a little bit of what I was lacking, as a young head coach. Sometimes you have to be yourself. You can't be other people, right? And to sit there and watch Mark D'Antonio, I would see Nick and I would see Coach Tress, then I would see Dino, right? So you'd see Saban, Tressel, D'Antonio, and that was probably the biggest thing I got from that stint. But you learn as you go, and it's all wisdom. 35 years in now, guys, got a lot more wisdom I had at 30 or 40.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and Coach, this next question, in April of 2005, a year after playing Marshall with Ohio State, you come on as the head football coach here at Marshall. And, you're following Bob Pruitt, who many consider to be the greatest coach in all of Marshall history. The program itself was dealing with NCAA probation, and you had some scholarship issues with that. So just talk about your feelings whenever you got that job. Talk about your emotions coming back to your alma mater. And then from a football standpoint, talk about kind of how difficult the reality of trying to stabilize the program would be to try and stay at a high level, but then at the same time, figure out how to navigate all that tough stuff behind the scenes.
Well, let's go back to that December. Marshall was playing Cincinnati, and Mark D'Antonio was the head coach at Cincinnati, and he had called me and said, I think that your alma mater might come open, and I was giddy about it. This was kind of my chance possibly, and it didn't happen, right? So we went on about our business, and we was in Texas week, getting ready for Vince Young at Ohio State. I'm talking about me. And the call came that Bob had stepped down. I'm sitting out in center field with Tress, and he's kind of educating me a little bit, and my mind was made up. Because guys, you got to remember now, as a little kid, my grandfather took me to Marshall games. My dad, when I was little, took me to the plane crash site. I played there. My whole family, my dad's side of the family, their house is where the Shuey building sits right now. So there's a lot of deep ties there, right? And I had a lot of people telling me not to take it. You don't want to follow the guy. You especially don't want to follow the guy with one spring practice left. You don't want to follow a guy that's on probation. There was a lot of things saying, and at the time, I was one of the hotter coaches in the country, to be honest with you. Had I stayed another season and beat Vince Young at Texas, it probably would have opened up in Indiana or Minnesota or something along those lines. But my heart was in it. My heart was there. Coach said, "There's no talking you out of it." And I said, "No, sir." And he said, "Get out here. Get down there. At least get one practice before the season, before the fall gets there." So I literally walked off the practice field and changed, got in my car, drove to Huntington, and told them not to hold the last practice, so at least I could see my football team, just at least see them on the field, right, before fall hit. But we were excited. I mean, it was an exciting time. It was a challenge, at the time. I thought I could fly. I thought I was Peter Pan. I could do no wrong, right? That's part of the innate thing that some coaches have. And at that point, I had a lot of success in my career, and this was my chance to do it. So we jumped on board and came on board and went to work.
Absolutely. And, like you said, there was a lot of things that were kind of stacked against you there early on, quite frankly. I mean, there was a lot of things going on there. But one of the questions I wanted to ask you, because this was such a special time for the university and for the community and everything, we are Marshall in 2006. What was that whole experience like for you?
Man, it was so cool. I mean, are you kidding me? Where I could write a book. I really could. It was really, both my daughters are in the movie. My middle daughter was Keith's little sister. My oldest daughter had a cameo. You know, McGee tried to get me in the movie. Had a chance to fly to Atlanta. Got to hang out with Matthew while they were in town. You know, Red and his bodyguard became really good friends, and me and Matthew had become really good friends. And because he would come over to practice, getting ready for his role, watching me coach. And funny story about Matthew came to a scrimmage on a Saturday. I guess they weren't filming, and we got to the red zone. He's talking about our players, and he knows a little bit of football now. And I said, all right, I told the OC, I said, McConaughey's calling this last play here. And he said, give the ball to 44.
That's a good call right there.
That was a
Good call.
Yeah. Oh, and Ahmad scored. He scored, and that was a fun time. That was pretty cool moment. Pretty cool moment. I said, I think you're going to be just fine, Matthew, in this role. And it was good, you know, getting a chance to fly to the premiere. You know, I mean, I sat next to Drew Barrymore. She was dating McGee at the time. You know, Lance Armstrong and Matthew were not roommates, but next door neighbors. And it was just really, really cool experience. And to see it happen around our community was just very, very rewarding. You know, again, I vaguely remember, you know, the crash, right? So it was an exciting time for a lot, but not exciting for a lot of other people. Mm-hmm. The hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life, guys, is the day we had the fountain ceremony, to look out. I don't wish that upon any head coach at Marshall. We got to do it. It is hard. But all those emotions of my father and my grandfather, and then seeing them people out there in that audience, that talk, to this day, I'm 60 years old, was the hardest speaking engagement I've ever had. So it was rewarding. It was really, really a neat time for the university and the community.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I bet. And again, you know, our story is again one of complete tragedy, but also just perseverance. And to see it on screen and different things, I was younger, obviously, and live, all I heard were the stories that my dad told me. And so to kind of see that come to life, it made it more real. And I'm sure that was really just a cool experience for you to be like center stage when all of that. That's you're the football coach of the football team. So that's awesome. But, you know, talking about, you know, you mentioned just a minute ago about that. You know, one of the most overlooked things, I think, about your tenure is the amount of NFL talent that came through. I mean, Ahmad Bradshaw, Albert McClellan, Cody Smith, Lee Smith, Doug Ligurski. You even recruited Vinnie Curry and several others. So, you know, you saw some fantastic players. Whenever you were recruiting players to Marshall during that era, what was one of your biggest selling points? And looking back now, are there any recruiting battles or maybe even recruiting stories that you could tell us about getting some of these guys to come to Huntington?
You know, I think that the story kind of told itself. It took a special kid to come to Huntington to play at Marshall. Again, is the reason Marshall is what it is. I really don't have a recruiting story per se. I think they just felt the energy. The community does a great job on recruiting weekends because it's all about Marshall football. So really don't have a recruiting story per se. And still stay, you know, the good thing is I still stay in contact. And the cool thing is now that obviously I'm not the coach there anymore, those kids I recruited are now my herd brothers, right?
Yeah.
They're my herd brothers. I'm no longer their coach. I am, you know, in the text messages and stuff, I'm still their coach, but I always end with her brother, right? So that's pretty neat. That part's pretty neat.
Yeah, definitely. And like Headset said, I mean, there was some great players that came through the Joan during that time. I mean, some of the best players we've ever seen for sure came through there. It was special stuff there. But my next question would be talking a little bit about, I was some of the biggest lessons that you learned as a head coach. What are some of those biggest lessons that you learned as a head coach, and how are you applying those lessons now in your new head coaching job?
Well, I mean, the biggest one that comes to my mind in my whole coaching career, and I'm sure you guys remember it, we were playing Kansas State, right, in Huntington.
Mm-hmm.
10 a.m. game. Nobody else is playing. They're ranked whatever they're ranked. And we have a chance to beat them, guys, right? We have a chance to beat them. Should have beat them, right? And as coaches have a checklist. And I guess I had been so many years with Coach Tress that it's an oversight by me as a head coach, right? I mean, you know to center the ball and kick the field goal, right? I mean, it's not real hard. I'd taken my headset off. I'm talking to the referee on our sideline. He's congratulating me on the win. It was Conference USA officials. And he said, "You got a kicker can hit this?" I go, "Oh, yeah, we do." And he's like, "Congratulations, coach." And we look up and we're throwing the ball. Mm-hmm. And that's my fault. I mean, the quarterback saw whatever he saw. And obviously we did not go through that checklist thoroughly enough, right, in that situation to center the ball up. I promise you, it's on my list now, and it has been on my list. I warned every single, and I don't even have to do it because the whole nation was watching that day. We were the only game on, getting ready to beat Kansas State, right, before the noon game come on. And it might have came on, and so I guarantee you that's on everybody's checklist. Every coach has a checklist. You either go through it during camp or on Fridays, right, Just a small, minuscule thing like that, guys, can cost you a football game. That's how tight football is. And that's probably the biggest learning lesson. I remember walking up into my office because I did my coach's show right after the game. When I got done, right after the game, I got with Keith. Yeah. And I remember walking up, sitting down, and just looking at him going, "What in the hell just happened? What in the hell just happened?" I couldn't process it. And probably, I don't know how many years I'd been in coaching at that point in time, but I'd never seen anything like that. And it was, to me, it's just common sense, but obviously it's not common sense to everybody, right? So that was a huge lesson. I can promise you at Shawnee, for all the Shawnee fans, we will center the ball up, whoever gets that. I promise you.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, talking about Shawnee a little bit. So after Marshall, your career, you had some major stops. I mean, South Florida, Texas A&M, Michigan State, Florida State, even professional football with the Houston Gamblers and the Orlando Guardians. And that's a tremendous amount of experience across a whole bunch of different levels of football. So after all of these years of what we would consider to be established programs, what ultimately drew you to the opportunity here at Shawnee State and the challenge really of building a program that has never had a program?
Well, I mean, again, like I told you when I took the Marshall job, I thought I could fly, right? This is to me, this is an opportunity to build something from the ground up. I've been doing this a long time now. Not a lot of people have had the opportunity to do this. I'm scouring the country. I've been scouring the country, going to startup programs. How did they get it started? What did it look like? What mistakes did you make? It's just a challenge. And I get to come back home, guys. I mean, I get to come home again and now build a program from the ground up. I don't have somebody else's players. They're all going to be mine, right? I'm not inheriting anything. I get to build the program. I get to see the facilities being built. Everything we do is a first, right? And how cool is that? That'll go, you go down as history as the first head coach, as the first recruit. Everything is a first, and that's so exciting. And to get to do it at home in that region that we're in there, guys, couldn't pass it up. I mean, it was an opportunity that brought me back home.
It's awesome. Can't ask for more than that. I mean, that's a great opportunity right there. No doubt about it. So my question regarding Shawnee State a little bit. So obviously you all don't start playing for a couple more years. and you're in the process of kind of trying to get everything in ducks in a row, so to speak. So what are some of what's your philosophy right now on recruiting and trying to like build the fan base and certain things like that, because it's a whole different game from what most coaches have to go through?
That's correct. So I've spent the last probably 2 months getting a recruiting plan together, and we're going to call it the state of Shawnee, 50 to 100 mile radius around Portsmouth. And we need to own that from a Division II standpoint. We need to own that area. No other Division II school should be able to come in there. So there's our first goal. And then we're gonna go north to Columbus, Cleveland. We're gonna go west to Cincinnati, Indianapolis, south into Lexington and Kentucky, and then west through West Virginia, Huntington, Charleston, over to the Virginia Beach area. And that's where we're gonna start, right? And then we'll spread out with all my connections throughout the country. I'm actually in Florida right now. We're going to hit Florida, Georgia, North Carolina. I may even send some guys up into Minnesota, because I saw some massive human beings when I coached up there, and there's not a lot of D2 schools up there. So that's kind of the game plan for the next couple of years, and then we start play.
Right, and kind of piggyback off of Trace's question there. So, I mean, of course, you're talking about recruiting and stuff, but just kind of talk about where you guys are at in the process, because, like, whenever people hear starting a football program, I don't really think they fully grasp everything that comes with that, because you're building a culture, you're recruiting, you got facilities coming, you're making your staff, you're figuring out scheduling, and the identity of who you guys are going to be. So,
Absolutely.
what are some of the things that has been a challenge or maybe even a surprise during these days?
It's went as planned so far thus far. There's going to be some hiccups. I know that. I've been on the phone all day long, interviewing, putting the staff together. We're getting closer. We're really close to having that done. And then we'll have boots on the ground in August. Everybody else is going to be in camp. We're going to be recruiting. Everybody else is going to be playing this fall. We're going to be recruiting.
Yeah.
And then come next year, everybody will be recruiting. We'll be recruiting, right? So it's recruit, as the facilities are being built and those kind of things. And it's been awesome. I mean, the president at Shawnee is incredible. He has a vision. Speaking of things I've learned that there has to be some vision. There has to be some alignment. If you look at the good programs from the president to the AD to the head coach, there's alignment there, and I was very, very impressed with when they flew down here to interview me, the alignment of the administration at Shawnee. It was very refreshing. The president is a businessman, a lot like Brad there at Marshall. He gets it. So that was very, very exciting. With that kind of leadership and forward moving, fundraising, we've already got a stadium. We've already got land to build the football facility on. We just got to do some renovating there a little bit, and we're off and running.
Sure. Can you talk a little bit more about that stadium? Because I was doing a little research. It's like built in 1928, former home of the NFL Portsmouth Spartans.
Yes, isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
Had a chance in high school to actually play there. There's a lot of history, guys. You walk down the corridor. I mean, you're talking about people now that trophies are named after in football. Wow. That played there, right? And to see their banners hanging up is pretty cool. Now, we do have some work to do on the locker room. The locker room looks like it's still from 1932, but we got some work to do there. But if those walls could talk, could you imagine what they'd be saying from the loge boxes? It's really cool. In today's world, all the loge boxes is up by the press box. Back in the day, they were ground level, and they're still ground level in that stadium. Pretty cool. I mean, it's really just a neat deal. Needs a little work, but what a history to be able to say that I coached in.
Yeah.
I mean, Jim Thorpe played there. I mean,
wow.
Yeah,
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. I mean, that's a great selling point too. I mean, you can sell that to recruits. You know, we're playing in this stadium, you know, just a more modern version. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
But
So it's going to be pretty neat.
yeah, definitely. So my next question would be talking a little bit more about establishing an identity at Shawnee State. Talking a little bit about that. What are some of when fans tune in to watch you all play in a couple years and beyond? What are some of the things you want them to immediately recognize about your program? Some of your beliefs and different things you want to just kind of pump into the program. What are some of those things?
Well, we want to be exciting and fun, and it's going to be that. Kind of like the golden years there at Marshall. I mean, it was fun to come to the games, right? It's fun. We're gonna do that. We're gonna make it an experience. We want to have a tough football team. Our region, because we're going to have to recruit a lot more regionally at the Division II level. We got tough people in our area. They grew up tough. We're going to play a tough brand of football. We're going to go mix it with some speed. Go find us a quarterback or two, and air that thing all over the yard and have some fun.
That's the way to do it right there. That's going to get everybody watching, no doubt about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Coach, listen, I don't really have another question for you, but I kind of just want to make a statement to you. So, and it's a statement that I think really is from myself, obviously, but I think it's from every reasonable Marshall fan. Thank you very much for giving your life and years of your life to Marshall University. I know that wins and losses during your tenure weren't what anybody hoped for, and I'm sure that nobody feels that more than what you do personally. But I also think that as time has passed, many people have gained a much better understanding of the circumstances that were surrounding your era. The probation issues, the hire, the conference transition, the injuries, all that stuff. It was just challenging. And you don't need to defend that. I'm not asking you to, but I do think it's fair to say that we stacked against you from the start. And through all of that, I don't think anybody can question that you genuinely love Marshall University, even just with this conversation. You love football and you love Marshall football. And so with that being said, I want to just say sincerely thank you, and we appreciate you. And I also have a little bit of a funny story for you that you probably have no recollection of. So when you were coaching, I was young. I was just in grade school. And I can remember that you would have the coaches call-in show at the Geno's Pub, every Thursday, I think. And my family went to one of those one evening, and I really wanted to go up there and ask you for your autograph and stuff. But the problem was I didn't have anything of like note, nothing that was worthy. So my dad literally was sitting there, and he handed me a rectangular styrofoam plate. And I went up there, and you signed it for me. And I kid you not, Coach, for 10 years, that thing was on my wall in my room next to a Byron Leftwich autograph and a Troy Brown autograph. And so I appreciate you. I really, really do. Thanks for just everything. Thank you for being our coach. You're a part of our history. And I really do wish you the best of luck in Shawnee State. I want to try and come up and watch you guys play sometime.
Awesome. I really, really appreciate that. I lay my head down at night, and I know for a fact that I left the program better than I found it. I will say that.
Absolutely.
That's a fact. And I had a chance to be a part of it. I got to live my dream, guys, and appreciate you guys so much. You guys do a great job. You guys do your homework. You get it. You get the facts. It's not just talk. You guys get the facts, and I appreciate you having me on.
It's amazing. We can't thank you enough for coming on. We talked about it even when we did your episode about your tenure. We said we would really, really like to get him on because that will be a very good conversation. You've just got so much football knowledge, so much history with Marshall, so much history with the game. It would be a great conversation. But I had one more last question I wanted to ask, kind of circle back. It's just not going to be anything too serious, but to circle back to your Marshall tenure, what are some of your favorite memories when you were as the head coach at Marshall? Just what are some of your overall best memories while you were at Marshall?
On or off the field?
Either.
Well, one of my favorite was going to the UCF game. We were leaving the hotel. The plane lands with all the movie stars on it and McGee and all of them. and the police are coming up behind the buses, and the buses pull over. Out jump McConaughey, jumps onto the bus, sits in the front seat with me, and he's got all this facial hair. And I was like, "Damn, what's all that all over your face?" And he's like, "I'm going to Australia to film a movie named Fool's Gold after this game." That was cool. Now that was so cool. And I'm sitting there, and it hit me. I'm like, I'm sitting beside a movie star, and he just is normal and loves football as much as I do, you know. And he's talking about his brother having a baby, and it was just that was pretty cool. Now I'm gonna tell you. And then him talking to the team right before we went out was interesting as well. So that would be my probably my favorite moment. Just how it all happened. It was dark out. The police pulled us over, and we're like, "What the heck's going on?" And out jumps McConaughey, right, and jumps up on the bus.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I couldn't even imagine being part of that. That would have been amazing to have been part of that. But on that note, Coach, I think that's pretty much wraps up all our questions. Unless if you got anything else you want to add before we sign off here, that's pretty much does it.
No, sir. Go Herd. Go Bears. Let's go this region. I'm a region guy. I am a tri-state guy through and through.
Absolutely. We'll love to hopefully catch you at a game a couple years down the road. Try to sell the program a little bit more and get some, social media presence going. That's kind of biggest part of why we were trying to do this as well. So hopefully that'll work out and you'll do a great job there. And I can't wait to see what y'all do. But with that being said, Coach, we appreciate your time very much, and go Herd. We hope y'all enjoy the episode.
Thanks, guys.